Are you ready to join the rebels and fight the Empire? Here's how to make a costume for a rebel trooper. I just started shooting a fan film that has a rebel trooper character, but I couldn't use the regular Endor green uniform because I shoot all my characters in front of a green screen, so I can't have anything green on the costumes that I use. So I had to make the rebel trooper a sort of generic, not forest camouflage character instead. So I decided to use shades of brown. So to make the rebel trooper character that I made, this is what you're going to need. You're going to need a pair of tan pants. They look better if they have big cargo pockets in the front. You're going to need a long sleeve tan colored shirt that matches the pants. You're going to need a dark brown long sleeve shirt, or if you can find a vest that's this color, that'll work too. And the best thing to use is a BDU shirt, the kind that has all the pockets on the front. You'll need a pair of brown work boots. You'll need a small brown backpack. This is a civilian copy of a military Alice backpack. Alice backpacks unfortunately don't come in tan color. You can only get them green. So this is a civilian copy that I happened to find online. But you can use any small backpack that's the right color. You'll need a brown belt, and I found these ammo pouches at the Army Navy store. They look pretty good, so I picked up a couple of those. You're going to need a dark brown aviator cap. I found this online. And you're going to need a piece of poster board. Most of your costume is pretty straightforward. You're just going to put on your tan shirt, your tan pants, and your boots. Next, you're going to take your long sleeve dark brown shirt and turn it into a vest, and you do that by cutting off both sleeves at the shoulder right around the seam, and then cutting off the collar right around the seam. That gives you a vest with a whole lot of pockets on the front, and that's what you want. Next is your belt and your ammo packs, then your backpack. Then comes your aviator cap. Now I modified this just a little bit because I wanted to make it look better, so I cut out 2 pieces of black craft foam, one for each side, and glued those on the ear flaps. And then I took a bottle cap and glued that on both sides too, so it looks like some sort of dial thingamabob. So that ended up looking pretty good. The last thing you're going to need is this weird donut thing that the rebel troopers have on their helmet. There are a couple of different ways to make these. I've seen people make them by cutting them out of plastic flower pots. They ended up looking pretty good. There's a Pepakura version of this floating around that I've seen. And that looks pretty good, but I've never had much patience with Pepakura because I've never had enough patience to sit down and tape all those little pieces of paper together. But if you want to give that a try, it might work for you. But the way that I did it was to measure the distance around my head with the helmet on, and then cut a piece of poster board the same length, and then spend some time shaping it and fitting it and getting everything to look right. So what you want is for the front of the donut to be a little bit narrow, the back of the donut is wider, and the top part is level all the way across. And then once you get this middle part sized the way you want it, you have to add the 2 rings to the top and bottom, and they slant inwards a little bit, and it helps it fit a little bit tighter. And then you just tape all this together. Now the poster board's not very strong by itself, so what I did to strengthen it was take fiberglass resin, the kind that comes in a jar with a little tube of hardener stuff on it, and I put 2 coats on the inside and 3 coats on the outside. And once that all dried, I was able to paint it, and that strengthened it pretty well, so now it's almost like plastic. So now it's nice and light, nice and strong, and it looks pretty good. The last thing you're going to need is a blaster. The rebel troopers on Hoth carried something they called the A280, and the troopers on Endor carried something that was a little different that some people call the A281. Mine is different from both of them, so I call it the A282. But basically it's made from an airsoft M4. The original Lucas models were based on an M16, and what he did was cut off the entire front part and replaced them with a lot of tubes and that sort of thing. I liked the way the front stock on the M4 looked, so I left that on. And what I did was just modify it pretty much the same way that Lucas modified his M16s to make the blasters for the movie. So the first thing you want to do is take the magazine out and cut off the bottom 3 inches or so and glue that just in front of the magazine well. And then this front grip here is a piece of vacuum cleaner hose that I glued on both sides to the bottom rail on the airsoft. And then the front sight was originally back here, so I cut that off and moved it forward so it would match the movie blaster a little better. This is some kind of little laser thing that came with the airsoft, and I thought it looked pretty good there, so I left it on. The top handle part, I cut that off and moved it forward, and that became the mount for my scope. And the scope is just a couple of pieces of plastic tube that I glued together, and it's got some greebly things on the back. These are some sort of bottle caps. I'm not even sure exactly where they came from, but they look pretty good. And this is the cap to a shampoo bottle, so I left that clear and painted everything else black. So it's not as hard to make as you might think by looking at it, and I think it turned out pretty good. So this is what the finished costume looks like. If you want to change the color, it's not very hard to do that. If you like the original Endor green color, just look for some military camo that's in green and brown colors, military fatigues. Get a green vest somewhere and paint the donut on your helmet green, and that'll work. If you want like an urban camouflage or maybe a snow kind of camouflage, you can make everything black and white, white with big black splotches all over it. There's a military camo that looks like that, so you can get a shirt and pants, and you can paint your donut the way you want it to. Or if you want, you can get U.S. Army issued desert camo. The old kind looks better. That was the light tan with the big red and black splotches all over it. You can probably find that in an Army Navy store, and they look pretty good too. But this is the look that I liked, and this is sort of a generic look, so it works in kind of every sort of environment. So if I have my troopers in the mountains or in the desert or in a jungle, this color scheme will still look pretty good. And I really like it also because it kind of matches the gray and black uniforms that the Rebel Fleet troopers wear. So I wanted them to sort of be kind of similar to that. So it turned out looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it.